Welcome to the Bank Marketing Show. I'm Dan Vallis.
Hey, Dan, I'm Chris Bates. Good to be with you.
Likewise, we got a little new intro going on today.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody looked at the episode listing, but this is a milestone episode today.
That's right. It's the big 100. Dan, and man, little did we know or think the breadth and length of the show and all of that. Here we are at 100 episodes, and man, it's been a blink getting here.
It's hardly felt like more than one or two,
Something like that. Yeah. And Dan, what's cool is this means for us, we're about to roll into our fourth season, into our fourth year, which is tremendous. And Dan, you and I have talked about this some, but man, the reason for that is because of the reflection that we've gotten, I would say, honestly, especially over the last year and a half from so many listeners. That's what's been really cool, don't you think?
Yeah, we, the first episode came out in like January 2022. Here we are going into 2026, and it's just grown, and we kind of intentionally haven't done a lot of heavy promotion of this. We've just kind of put it out there, LinkedIn, shared it when we're at conferences and meeting people, and I think it's just gotten a kind of nice organic following. And over the past year, we've definitely started to hear more and more of you on kind of what you're getting out of the show, and heard through the grapevine on listeners and seen our kind of download numbers go up. And it's just really cool to be giving this to the community, and hoping along the way we're helping people learn, helping people kind of get motivated for what they do.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, that was our purpose from the beginning, was to pour resources into the industry. And you're right. I mean, our numbers and our subscriber numbers, by the way, if you haven't done that, click subscribe, that have continued to go up. And that's really cool. But then we also hear stories like, that bank from, I think it was West Virginia, reached out to us, and they were like, yeah, every other Monday we gather in the lunchroom and in the break room and have a lunch together and listen to the newest episode. I'm like, that's pretty cool. And we hear from, banks on the West Coast and Colorado and here in the South. And, we've had people reach out to us for information or to sharing some of the resources occasionally that we provide, like a brand guide or some of your digital information stuff. And anyway, it's just been really great to have not only just a heartbeat to it, but to know that, as you said, I mean, we're reaching folks and being informational, hopefully helpful, resourceful to a lot of folks in the industry. And so that has been really cool. And wow, when we think back about it, Dan, what a lineup of guests. It's really been something.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a few association leaders. We've had, several bank leaders. We've had inspirational speakers on. We've had, different kind of vendors sharing their view on the industry and where technology is going.
Mm-hmm.
Had a couple like case studies from real bank campaigns. So we've kind of covered the gamut, but we're not done. There's still more people to talk to, still more stuff we're working on for next year. And yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I wouldn't think that when we started this, we'd have gone on this line. What are the stats? Like most podcasts don't get to episode 10 or something.
Yeah.
And, maybe we started out stubborn, and said, no, we're going to keep going. But now it's, now we can feel the love coming back a little bit. So
that's right. Well, and I know, speaking of carrying forward, what we wanted to do today, I think will also be valuable, maybe a bit of fun, is that you and I are going to, what do you want to call it? Interview, banter a bit, and that we've prepared
I would say
drill
each other. There you go. Turn on a big interrogation light and
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. But some good industry info here and all of that. So you guys are going to get to hear something a little different than the norm, is kind of some perspective and or opinion from Dan and Chris today on things about the industry. And Dan, I think we can go ahead and tell them is that you have no idea of the few questions that I've prepared for you, and vice versa. So
yeah, I'm slightly scared, but I think
little bit here
we'll
too.
Get through it.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, usually even our guests know kind of the general topics we're going to cover, right? So they can prepare. You know, we've only discussed the format of this episode, not what the actual questions are going to be. So we'll see how this goes.
There you go.
But want to do something special for the 100th episode and ask each other some of the questions that we'd normally ask guests, or save for a blog post, stuff like that. So
yeah. Or hey, look, if you want to get a little office pool going about can Chris stump Dan or vice versa, go ahead and do that now before we dive into some questions.
Pause.
There you go.
Take bets. We don't condone gambling, but
yeah, that's right. not that we endorse that. Just saying. Well, Dan, I'm gonna start with, I guess, what I would call a softball for you, in that there's no right or wrong answer. So before we dive into a little more specific marketing and banking industry stuff, so my first one for you is to ask you, what is your favorite sector or platform for marketing?
Wow. Like technology?
A tactic or strategy. Several different ways to say that. But what's if you had to pick all the different ways and approaches and tactics and platforms that we use for marketing, what's your favorite?
I think it's one of those things that changes, right? I think right now I'm kind of most excited by the world of, we've had some episodes on this, but the world of AI engine optimization. And in that, that itself it's kind of a hot button topic. But as we've done more and more of it, it's just, you really have to get into the questions that people are asking, the questions that customers might ask your bank, right? That's the root of kind of how you show up and stuff.
Yep.
Is answer real world questions. And as you know, like I'm come from like the strategy consulting world, so that's kind of where my mind always goes. And we're putting together a campaign or even a flyer or brochure or something. It's like, I want to know why I want to read this. And it's the approach to AEO is really getting at the root of why customers should care.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're asking these search engines. So maybe a little bit of, maybe I'm sort of escaping the root of your question, but
no, I think
that's what's most exciting right now is just figuring out how to do that.
There you go. Well, see, that wasn't too painful. Yeah, I didn't hit below the belt or anything. Not yet. All right, go for it.
All right, what is one belief that you've changed your mind on in terms of bank marketing since we started the podcast?
Oh, wow. A belief on bank marketing. I'll answer. I'll tell you what comes to mind. I'll answer it the best way that I can. Years ago, I used to think that what we had to do in bank marketing was figure out where the absolute edge was from a compliance standpoint. And that the best marketing was to, we can't redline, we can't do this, but we got to figure out how to, do some variation of that. That's going to, anyway. And what's changed for me, Dan, is that the more that we have done around story. So story meaning brand, story meaning even a specific campaign's, goal, and what it is the stories that are baked into that and how those don't typically get anywhere close to the edge of compliance. So that's kind of that belief to me, is that like, actually we can kind of stand right out here in the middle of the stage, not you and I, but marketing for banks and tell the story or stories. And that's really highly effective marketing. And it usually far more easily checks all the boxes of compliance. So I've kind of shifted my belief in like, from what can we get away with to, what, I'm not even close to worried about that. Let's do something else. Let's stand out here and tell the story. And then all those parts typically kind of take care of themselves. And we're not, we're not, our bank clients aren't losing sleep, before the regulators show up.
Yeah. I like that. It's because you could kind of, right, you start from a place of fear of like, well, what can we get away with?
And contention.
How can we bend the rules?
Yeah.
Versus intention versus saying, what do we really want to say out in the marketplace? Mm-hmm. And if you bump up against a compliance where you can dial it back, polish it up a little bit, but start from that place of what do we really want to get out there?
Yep.
Versus. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So diving in one notch deeper for you. So my next question for you is, what do you think is the most commonly heard pain point in marketing and bank marketing that you've heard from your community bank clients over the years? If you had to pick one, what's the most common pain point for community banks in marketing? I
think the biggest thing I hear is just we don't know where to start. Or we don't know what maybe it's not phrased exactly like that, but it's we don't know where to start, or we don't know what to do. And I think it's a reflection of there's just a lot of information out there. Mm-hmm. And if you search bank marketing or even just marketing strategy, you get lots of conflicting inputs. Well, do this because this will work the best. Don't do that because that won't and I think I think what happens is a lot of community banks are not hiring, you're not hiring like somebody with an MBA in marketing usually, right?
Yeah.
You're hiring somebody that knows the community well, knows the bank well, has had some experience in marketing, but it's you're not generally hiring somebody that comes in with a ton of specific kind of platform experience. And so you need to, and part of why we do the show, you need to learn from other sources. But then the flip side of that is it can just get overwhelming as to
right,
what do we do first, right? Or here's 20 things we want to do. How do we, I don't know, what do we start with? How do we know what's working? How do I, prove that to my leadership team?
Yeah.
I think that's and that's probably like a reflection of, because that's kind of the work I do.
Yeah, that strategic planning that helps solve that issue that you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's always, and I'm not trying to directly plug my stuff, but like I think the point is it's a common pain point of just, well, we could do anything, but what's going to be the most impactful?
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
All right. What is my next question for you? What's the one bad marketing habit that you wish every community bank would stop doing?
Wasting money on immeasurable, inconsequential, traditional marketing tactics. I don't know what percentage, Dan, of my agency's 68 community bank clients are still doing newspaper advertising because the newspaper is a customer of the banks. I mean, okay, I get it. But I mean, so we got to do something because they're a customer of the bank. Okay, well, so I'm to the point of like, okay, well, run like a business card ad, once a month or something, just so when you bump into them at the cafe at lunch, you can go, you feel good that you're actually still doing business with them. But even broader than that, and I'm not just picking on newspaper, but, are stuck, Dan, in the, we've always done that. And even that stuck thinking of, so that's where our customers know us. That's where our customers hear our brand. And what they're missing is their customers aren't even there anymore. And I'm not trying to just put down, traditional marketing, but I mean, that's not where you can engage with customers, potential new customers, all that kind of stuff, irregardless of what your specialty is, or your whether you're in ag or commercial or whatever type of banking that you're in. So, yeah, it's that stuckedness, Dan, that just and I always say that with the caveat that should you still be sponsoring the high schools and doing the sports guides ads and all the really localized stuff as part, you dang right you should, absolutely. but it's kind of wasting the bigger money on traditional radio, cable TV, newspaper, and all that. It's like, but you're being left way behind here.
Well, you recognize what the thing you're doing does and who is reading it. So
yes,
if your ad's in the newspaper, who is actually still reading that thing?
Mm-hmm.
And whatever you do in there should talk to them. But if you start kind of convincing yourself that, hey, we're reaching, Gen Z by including this newspaper ad, you're not. Right. So one, you don't need to talk to Gen Z in that newspaper ad. Mm-hmm. But two, you should also realize you're not talking to Gen Z in that newspaper ad and think, well, what tactics would reach them?
Yep.
And make it part of your plan.
Yep.
But I've seen that a ton too of, hey, your newspaper is one of your bigger monthly line items.
Yep.
And, you've been thinking about doing digital ads or something for a long time and still can't get out of that.
Yeah. Or just moving into the whole digital marketing, with a big D and a big M, spectrum, whether that's SEO, GEO, paid digital, all the things. Yeah. So, yep. That one sticks in my craw a bit. And because we're expected to be looked at as a partner and perform marketing of consequence for our bank clients, and we're going, we can't. Yeah, we got to shift here. So here was a fun one, and I'll see if you can think of a story or an instance. Is can you name a favorite? I'll call it a life impacting story about a customer that one of your bank clients has shared with you? Or one that sticks out.
Yeah, that's a good one. I worked with a bank that, I guess maybe it's less of a story and more of just like their approach to storytelling in their marketing. But they were really big on, a lot of banks talk about community. We're here, we're part of the community, but if you can really show that, instead of just saying we're your community bank, don't say that. Show what it means. And so they would do ads with this, the CEO is in a rehab home with a sledgehammer, and talking to neighbors and, really out in the community. So I think things like that always pop out. I think now that I'm going through all that, to bring a similar idea down to a story, there's a bank that I've worked with for a number of years who's they got a few branches. One of them was impacted by a tornado a couple years ago. In a typical kind of real small town, but the tornado kind of came through and wrecked a nice swath of the downtown, which in a small town is only a couple blocks. But it happened to be the hometown of the bank's president. And so, they got really involved in, we got to clean up. We got to, the bank luckily itself was untouched. So it kind of became a home for displaced, businesses. And the bank went above and beyond raising money, working with a local charity, things like that. And so that really stuck out to me as, hey, one, it's touching just from the human perspective. But two, like, they weren't going into that thinking, we got to video this and put it on a Facebook ad. And they weren't even going to do any of that. Right. And I was like, and maybe you don't want to directly, but is there a way we can do that to show the community what you're doing and convince the community to also donate? Right. You are the place where if you want to donate cash or a check to this charity, your bank is the place where people go drop that off. But can we weave that into a story about how the community kind of comes together?
Yeah.
And not promoting the bank, right? But by being the messenger of that story, by pushing that story out into the market, it builds your bank's brand.
You're foundational for the opportunity to survive and thrive as a community. Yeah. Wow.
And this wasn't your question, but like that's a strong. I'm saying all that to say, a lot of banks are too humble and won't talk about it because we don't want to be seen as promotion, but it's, we were able to put together a story for them that we're not promoting the bank. We're not even talking about the bank. We're just saying we are part of this community and we hope everyone else cares too and come donate, And so it's just by the bank being the messenger. And I said, like, the other thing we were talking about at the time was like, when there's a big disruption in a community like that, people are kind of looking for a source of truth. And these small towns, you don't have, even maybe you don't have a newspaper anymore, speaking of newspapers, or that newspaper is published once a week. And, people don't, people want information faster nowadays. And so it's like, there's probably a role for a bank in that situation to be the news provider or the source that people
resourcefulness. Yeah.
And it's not, again, you're not trying to say, sign up for an account and we'll send you the news. It's just saying we're a member of this community and we want to help and we're helping.
Isn't it amazing? You and I had that in common, that we had the same thing in 2021 with the Bank of Anguilla here. That was a client of ours, and Rolling Fork, Mississippi was not partially, literally decimated, and a lot of deaths, even in the small town. And kind of like your instance, I mean, it was two blocks or 3 blocks was downtown, but the entire community was literally decimated, including the bank. And within days, they were the first thing up and going on folded card tables and cash boxes as soon as they could get a signal and operate. And so that people in the town could at least just go get cash or just function, So yeah, you and I had that very similar story. Wow. Yeah. That's a life impacting story. That was, so great answer.
It's my turn to ask you. Okay.
Yeah. Don't hit below the belt or anything. Come on.
No, I'm trying, but okay. What is one? It's a good follow on to that discussion actually. But what's one overlooked advantage that community banks often forget they have?
Relationship. And they know that. So I'm not answering your question well as far as the overlooked part. But I think what's overlooked is, again, I'm going to this. But how to tell that as part of the story. And you and I see so much in marketing that is either promoting rates, so it's a race to the bottom, it's price war, or it's plain and indifferent. Pardon my sarcasm, but we're a bank. We offer checking accounts and loans. And again, I'm saying that tongue-in-cheek and sarcastically, but kind of not.
Yeah.
So rather than brand messaging around the personality of the bank in order to tell the story about relationships, because to answer your question specifically now, for community banks, it is about that. That is the big differentiator. Dan, you and I have both been and are involved in a lot of state banking associations. And so whether I'm in Minnesota or Mississippi or, out west or wherever I am involved in banking associations, it's the same people with different faces. Meaning community bankers are just awesome relationship people. That is the through thread to me. That's one of the most important through threads of our industry. And so with that being the case, kind of like you said a minute ago, don't be so humble about relationship that you're not getting that message out there of the value of what actually having a relationship is.
Yeah.
I told the story on the podcast, gosh, this was a couple of years ago, but even Dan, about this, what happened to my wife, Stacy, and I, and long story, but from ties way back, we were with a bigger, regional bank and all that and had a fraud issue. And, short story, dude, there was no relationship there. There was no help. And within a week, we changed to a community bank, based here. And now we benefit from that relationship all the time. So there's a confession there. I didn't even know what I was. Now, my agency was working with a community bank, and I knew how valuable that was for my business. But personally, boy, it was so, yeah. So relationship. And, I think we as banks should poke our chest out about that a bit. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's another example
yeah.
of tell stories that, tell the fraud story. Don't just say, we value relationships, because relationship, the word, is not the differentiator. The differentiator is the stories.
And
Because
show
that's what
it,
people
like you said.
relate to.
Yeah, show it, like you said a minute ago. And Dan, that can be done obviously through social media posts. It can be done through targeted digital ads. It can be done through web content. It can be done, it can be done through all these marketing ways of telling that story, by doing brand messaging and doing it well. And so, yeah, I think that's the big one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll bring us a little more to present day and to kind of where you and I have offered a lot of resource and specificity around lately too. And I'm going to ask you to do a bit of future casting. So what do you think AI in banking is going to look like 2 years from now?
2 years from now.
Yeah. Which we know, to set this up fairly, 2 years in the AI world is like forever. That's like my kids grown up by then. So anyway.
Yeah.
What do you think that's going to look like?
I think a couple things, right? I think there's AI from, well, I maybe think about it in 3 different segments, right? There's kind of the front end AI that's customer experience stuff, website, chatbot type of agent, agents on the website that can actually do things for you. That can actually transfer your money around or actually answer questions, right? A chatbot that can actually answer questions. Accurately. With or without you connecting you to a human agent, or even without you knowing whether it is a human or not, right? That technology basically exists now. It's going to take some time to get through regulatory hurdles and make banks less concerned about compliance issues with it. So it probably will start with, it will do very limited things. But already there's digital agents on, e-com websites that can place orders and do all kinds of stuff. So these things can start taking action now. So I think we'll start to see more of that. Okay. Right. I think at some point, maybe in the next 2 years, website content can even be customized one-to-one as you go to the site. You could picture you appear on a site that, some kind of technology can read read the cookies on your browser or like determine intent and generate content on the fly that it thinks you'll respond to. I think that world is coming, and that's probably a little easier of a hurdle because it's just the front end part, not the banking pieces. Yeah. So the first part I think is customer experience. There's a lot of ways that can go. The second part of like AI banking would be the banking itself. Right. I don't know if that's really going to look much different in 2 years. Right. But if you look at maybe a 5 or 10 year horizon, every bank's online banking system and even a lot of fintechs kind of looks similar. You log in, you look at your balance, you can download statements, you can look at recent transactions. And, that whole interface could be completely uprooted with AI tools.
Yeah. Far more seamless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just kind of,
more seamless and it's just a general shift from like forms and menus to a prompt or to make it easier to customize your dashboard. You might be in a habit of, I go in every week and I want to look at the transactions that happened this week, but maybe it takes you a few clicks to set up the filter and look at that, and it can maybe customize. Maybe an AI version of that customizes that to your preferences. Or much more seamless alerts. There's a lot of banking interfaces that are like, yes, you can set up alerts, but you have to go in and say, well, I want to set an alert when there's a transaction over X dollars, or when there's my balance gets below this. But those are very kind of if-then kind of triggers. With AI, it can be much more organic, of alert me when my paycheck comes in, right? And you don't have to explain what paycheck means, right? Versus the world of, alert me when an ACH from this specific vendor comes through. That stuff will get a lot more organic and a lot easier. And I think we'll probably see it with fintechs, neobanks, or even fintechs that are not banks that sit on top of a bank as a service. We'll see the features come there first, but I think banks will need to adopt. And I think it's hard for a community bank because you're not building that tech yourself. You're buying it from
right
core or online banking vendor. So, but I think it'll be them. But that's what I say, probably not in 2 years, but maybe a little further. The third piece, AI in banking, is the really back end stuff, the pre-approvals and full
workflow processes,
credit analysis. Yeah, like the all that stuff, and that stuff's coming. That stuff's coming faster, and obviously there's like compliance and regulatory issues, but I think it's going to help banks make decisions faster. I don't think humans are going to be out of the process in 2 years, but it can certainly make it easier. You collect financial statements from a customer, and instead of somebody keying that in manually, it just gets scanned in and is there. And as soon as you get the statement from the customer, you load it into the system, and 5 minutes later, it's made a decision for you. Maybe you still want to review and do that, but I think in the next 2 years, it's going to kind of get to that point. And and tools that can look at your whole portfolio too and say, here's the risk on this one customer. But if you look at your collective risk, are you getting too much concentration in one type of customer? Those types of analyses that banks are doing, but that stuff will get much easier, much more seamless.
Well, and even as you know, last week I was at the Ole Miss School of Business Banking Symposium, which has gotten to be a tremendous resource annual event, and one of the national and international AI panels that was really very, very cutting edge people. We're talking about what you were just describing it, but even with individual credit. And that kind of this guy's prediction was the FICO score and how that's done for us as consumers now is going to be a dinosaur. Because what AI can do is an actual analysis of your entire financial behavior, not just the restricted, specific, sometimes slow to be entered or responded, things that a FICO score takes into consideration, and all these things, but how AI is going to be able to take the entirety of everything that you do. And he said, we won't even use the word score, but basically score you in a different way than credit is scored today. And he said, and we're, that's not way future tense. They're like working with in those processes and working with regulators today to try to get that.
And the FICO score is a tool that banks and other entities can use to know if you're credit worthy. But an AI tool can just tell you, say, are you credit worthy? Are you credit worthy this month? Are you credit worty for this type of transaction? Maybe you always pay your electric bill, but sometimes you're late on your car payment. Like it will know that and know, okay, well, if they're trying to buy another car, maybe not. And I think, and you make a good point too of another one of those back office areas is fraud detection. Hopefully that can get much more, much improved. But I think the bigger thing when you put the 2 year time frame on it too is, yes, like the technology could do those things today, but to really get an accurate picture of an individual's finances, it needs to connect to all these different data sources.
Right.
And that's the piece that's going to take time. Is, can it really get your banking history and your credit cards and your other stuff can it figure out from, your social or whatever, like any loans that you have? That's a little harder to do, right? Given the data, it can totally, make a credit worthiness analysis right now. But it'll be interesting to see how those other pieces come in.
Cool. Good one. Yeah.
All right. 100 episodes in, what personal growth lessons have shown up the most for you? It could be in your own life, could be in the life of the guests and the themes that have come out as we've interviewed people. But what kind of personal growth lessons have you gotten?
Okay, I'll answer that one kind of personally and individually. And what I mean by that is as the CEO and owner of an agency with 16 people on the team, and ancillary to that, a number of other partner vendors and those types of things, Dan, that's a big part of my why. That I do what I do. Okay, so maybe this will sound kind of a little strange, but I'll actually say this: is our almost 70 bank clients. I can kind of see the food on the table at the homes of the bank's employees. Okay, and I can certainly imagine, or in my mind's eye, see it with my team, and at a far deeper level. And so that is an incredibly important part of why I do what I do. It's also a great part of this industry because the outside world may think banking, and they go, "Oh, that's kind of dry." It's actually quite the opposite of that. It's very, very people-filled and story-filled and all that kind of stuff. But man, my team is so important to me. And getting to, just like you and I seek to do, and I think we do with this podcast, is pouring into resourcefulness and the people in this industry, is that this podcast and everything that my agency does all day, every day, is to pour into its own people as well, and how crucial and important that is. So I think, gosh, man, again, we talked at the beginning of this episode about some of the guests that we've had. And man, I've learned way more, Dan, than I would have thought or predicted that I would, from our own episodes and our own guests and our own. I mean, some of them, man, I've hung up, and at the end I've gone, wow, I had no idea that guy was going to go in that direction or was going to say that. And wow, I've caught myself ready to take our episode and go back through the recording so I can take notes of what she just said about, whatever.
Yeah.
So and so. And so, yeah, man, I mean, I've learned, and by being a co-host with you in this, we get this perspective of taking all of this to our listeners. But to me, it pours the other way too. And then I get to pour that into my team. And, or that's part of my job in doing that. So yeah, I mean, from that personal / professional growth, it's been very impactful, I think, to me, and I hope to my team. Yeah. So
Great. Yeah.
Well, didn't know that was happening. It's kind of like, by helping others, and from Dan, that for me, it's a faith thing. It's lots of things that by pouring into others, then I am intrinsically rewarded. And I'm not talking about intangible ways. I'm not talking about revenue. I'm talking about the stuff that actually really matters, and impacting others. So yeah. So, and by the way, thank you for being a co-host with me. No, that's part of that. It's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Likewise, yeah. I think it's one of the reasons I think we started this and have gotten to episode 100 together is just being able to bounce ideas off each other. And it's a mm-hmm. lesson. It's a lesson for, we're kind of solo owners of our companies. Mm-hmm. A lot of bank marketers are the only marketing person in their bank. Mm-hmm. And, it's a similar thing of like, you have to learn from other people. But mm-hmm. when you're when you're the only person kind of in your role, or you don't have a team, you don't have a team, like it's hard to find that. And so I'm happy that we're putting some of that out into the world. And like I said, we're getting it in return. We're learning from our guests. We're learning from, the banks we talk to along the way. So it's
great point.
It helps keep us going.
Yeah. Well, all right, Dan. So my last one for you. You have a 1 in 99 shot. And that is, I phrased it in my notes about asking you, what is your favorite episode so far? And I don't know if favorite is really a fair question, but what's one that just jumps out Just
Well, I have the benefit of having the full list of them up on my screen.
Your cheat sheet. Go for it.
I think we've had a couple of rebranding episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and these aren't necessarily my favorite from, oh my gosh, like, I grew so much listening to them, but just
not revolutionary thought.
Yeah, but like we talked to like Jeff McCarthy at Bank 59 about his rebranding effort. It was just such an interesting story because it gets into just the smarts that kind of go into like picking the name and needing to rebrand. And we just we recorded another. I guess it'll have already been out by the time this goes out, but with Randy at My Kind of Bank, and just hearing those stories of how it was this big long project that you don't normally hear banks undertaking, and there's thought that goes into the name and the why of the name, and then there's like the internal sort of persuading people to do it. There's the big kind of launch project. How do you launch it? When? What are all the activities you need to do around just the name change itself? The stories that both of them told about employees rallying around the name and customers getting excited about it. They're just really cool stories.
Yeah.
And it's a big transformation for the bank. And not that everybody needs a full rebrand, but those two pop out to me. It's just really cool stories, and you kind of get into the inner workings of it.
Yeah, they are. It's bigger picture transformational stuff. Yeah. Really cool. All right.
Last one for you.
I'm sitting down.
All right. So you speak at a lot of bank conventions.
Mm-hmm.
And this is sort of me helping to promote you a little bit, but Chris is out there speaking at bank conventions. Go see him. But what's the most common question you get asked after you give a talk at a bank convention?
Oh wow! What's the most common question? Yeah, that's a great question because there are a lot of them. I tell you, whether I travel and go do like a marketing peer group workshop for a day for a state association, or whether it's what I did just a few weeks ago, a conference keynote, and there are 350 people in the room, and the conversations afterward. I'm trying to be a little careful in how I say this because I don't want to sound. Let me just say it this way. One of the goals when I do talks, Dan, is to make people really reflect and think about themselves or their own bank or their own entity or whatever the case may be. And that's really kind of a core, almost unspoken goal of every single talk that I do. And so when people come up to me afterwards and ask, hey, here's what we're going through or experiencing, or here's our trouble and all, and I heard what you said about XYZ, so what do you think I should do? That's the question I was kind of trying to get to, is when people come up afterwards and are like, man, that really made me kind of reframe the way I've been thinking about this. What do you think we should do? And that's not because I have the answers necessarily. I like to help people find their own answers, but that lets me know that, what I was engaged in doing and the messaging that I was trying to get across in a keynote or in a talk is really is making people think, which means it has some applicability, not just that was a cool talk and you kind of pack your lunch sack up and walk out and you don't really use that. I want it to be used in your brain when you get back to the office or back home if it's personal development. So yeah. So what do you think I should do? That honors me tremendously especially when several people ask that in some variation after a talk that I do, and it lets me know that got that made them. I got to be a vessel of a message that made them think. There you go. Yeah.
Cool.
So, wow.
Well,
Yeah.
as we say, we can't let each other get out of here without the lightning round.
That's right. That's right. Since we're guests on each other's show today.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Well, let's do that. Since it's my turn, can you share a personal and/or a business best?
Yeah. These are the questions I knew were coming. So
exactly. Yeah, and you're supposed to answer them in lightning round fashion, which is really hard to do sometimes.
Yeah. I think the personal side, in the fall, as it is, now when we're recording this, I coach a Lego robotics team at my kids' elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a little building, a little driving, teaching kids how to write some code and drive a robot around to complete, little Lego missions. And it takes a lot of patience. I've never been more, have gained so much respect for what teachers do. Because even with just 5 or 6 kids, I'm like, I come out of that thing just needing to go in a dark room for a few hours and relax. But it's super rewarding to I'd never coached anything before, but it's super rewarding to help kids and see their delight when they struggle with this robot and then it goes and it does what it's supposed to do and they get so excited. So, and then it's a fully different sort of skill than it takes to do bank marketing. So
yeah,
that's a kind of what I'm most proud of at the moment. And business best. This year I've been shifting my agency over from an agency to building products and building automation tools for banks. And this year I've been focused on getting a prospecting tool that I'm building for banking teams off the ground. And so, we're in pilot mode now, and I'm pretty proud of having built that up.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, follow me on LinkedIn for more information. But
there you go. That's right. Yeah,
the promos off.
Yeah, man, you're doing. To do the quick plug. I mean, you're doing some amazing work in that direction, and so it's a whole next level beyond strategy and a lot of the things that have been in the middle of your wheelhouse for a long time, and what that's doing. So really, really cool, really good stuff.
Yeah. I'll turn the tides. Personal best, business best.
Yeah. Wow. A personal best, I would say. Gosh, I've had a lot of them in the last year. What comes to mind is being a grandparent, along with my wife Stacy, and what we get to do with our grandkids. It's everything you always heard that it was. Meaning you get to have fun, and then when they start running a fever, you drop them off, at home and all that other kind of stuff. But, and we also, we say very openly, we like them a lot better than our kids. But having these little grandbaby boys, Dan, is just a whole evolution of life thing, and kind of getting to see things through their own eyes. And one of them in particular sent a FaceTime recording to my wife recently, and was demanding that she call him back right now. Right now. And all that. And anyway, and so we kind of joke about that, but the serious point of it is these little ones, now 3 years old and all that, teach us how to make the world's noise go away and just sit on the floor and play with them or do whatever. And it's, anyway. So I would say time with them is definitely a cool personal best. And man, a business best is again really just agency growth. When we merged 2 agencies together in 2020, we were working with banks in 5 or 6 states. Now we're working with banks in 17 states and growing. And but it's not just about the growth; it's also about the impact. The level and quality of service and the level of my team's expertise that they get to pour into people that's definitely a best for us. Really cool stuff.
Cool.
All right. So for you, what's a favorite book or other resource? And you can't say the Bank Marketing Show.
No. Well, I was thinking I was thinking about this question, and I could give a number of business book recommendations, but that's another area where it changes. I tend to read business books as like, I'm hitting against a problem, and I'll find a book that sort of fixes it. So they don't usually, there's some really good stuff, but they don't usually end up as a favorite for me, because I move between stuff. But so I went a little more personal with it, but I read a lot of books on astrophysics and astronomy, and I love just kind of thinking about the universe that we all live in, and kind of gives me a sense of, scale and, just wonder, something kind of bigger than us. It's almost a spiritual kind of thing for me to think about. So I just read a book called The End of Everything, Astrophysically Speaking, by Katie Mack. And I tend to read the stuff that it's not the types of books with a bunch of equations in it, but it talks about all these theories about how the universe might end in like 100 billion years. So nothing too, nothing too dark.
Don't pack your bag yet? Yeah.
Yeah. But like it gets into just how the universe started and how it's evolving and where it's going. And it just always fascinating for me to think about our little corner of it. And why everything is here. So I just love that feeling of kind of, putting everything, I'm doing on the ground kind of into perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Love that. Very cool. Thus, in case some that don't know it haven't picked up on it, has to do with the name of your agency, Two Novas.
Yeah. Well, it's just where the space theme kind of comes from, and just,
Yeah. Very cool.
How about you?
The favorite book that I have read recently, and I read a lot of fiction and a lot of, I'm constantly reading, and I read a lot of, the business books and professional development, personal development stuff, and all of that. But the one that jumps out to me within the last couple of years is Green Lights. Matthew McConaughey. You want to talk about a storyteller. He's such a great storyteller. And I read the book and then listened to it, and the audiobook version with him doing it is even better than reading. But it's just such a fascinating human study. But that dude's got a lot of drive, and regardless of what you may think about things around him, or whether you're a Texas Longhorn fan or whatever, is not. but it's about. My takeaway from it was a lot of it about personal drive, and having that. So whether it's spiritual, whether it's this or whatever it is, but the personal drive. I had some really cool takeaways from that one.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah,
a good one.
So for you, Dan, what is the most impactful piece of advice you've received?
Right now, that's another thing that I think changes, depending on kind of the phase of my life and the bigger kind of projects I'm working on right now. The most impactful thing is just thinking about building a product instead of an agency, right? Is that and this I think applies to banks too, is like, it's not the idea itself that matters. It's how you implement it, right? Or what you do with it. So meaning there's always going to be competitors, right? If there's not a competitor for something, a startup idea, a bank product or service, if there's not a competitor, it probably means it's not a great idea, right? In the internet world where information is instantaneous, like somebody else is going to have the same idea, right? But your unique experiences, your approach to it is the way you apply your experience to that idea is what's unique. Right. So, we're focused, what I'm building, I'm focused on solving things in a super, super easy way, a way that really tied to how banks think. And we might be doing the same thing as a much bigger competitor, but they might not be thinking, specifically about banks as a customer. And so it's, I think for banks, it's you can apply that to kind of anything to say look, it's not the checking account. Right. Not that you have a checking account that matters. It's the story that goes around it. It's the everything that you put into the service, and some of the stuff you were talking about earlier in this episode of the relationship and why that matters. And that's what's That's what matters.
Yep. Cool.
So yeah, how about your most impactful piece of advice?
A mentor of mine years ago, we were talking about doing hard things, which happens in life at a fairly regular pace to one level or another, for all of us, personally and sometimes professionally. And he said, well, man, Chris, I've got good news for you. He said, because there are only two times that you need to show up. I was like, oh, okay. I was kind of on pins and needles waiting for this great advice. And he said, well, yeah, the only two times are when you want to and when you don't want to. Well, crap. Yeah. So, man, that's got really broad applicability, but it's so profound is that so often it doesn't matter what I think or even how I feel. It matters what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah. So that one I pass along to my kids and others around me a lot. So
yeah, that's great.
But yeah, it's a good one. Well, so flipping it around for you, what is something that you pass along to your team, your clients?
I think the thing I find myself saying the most is, and I know you probably all heard me say this on the show, and I kind of hinted at it in my last answer, but it's when you're, I guess it's no matter if you're making a marketing slogan or campaign or you're chatting one-on-one with somebody or presenting at a conference, whatever it is, you have to think about the problem that your audience is going through, not what you can provide. Mm-hmm. And so we say a lot on the show. Think about the customer problem, the actual questions they ask, not the checking account, not the service you're asking back. But it's I was showing my son the other night. He was writing an email. He's young and doesn't write a lot of emails, but I was explaining to him, like, you have to think about in your head, like, what do you want the person, what are you asking the person for? What do you want out of them? Mm-hmm. Like, not in a, I don't know, not in a taking advantage of them way, but just in like, what's the purpose of the email? Mm-hmm. And how can you make it easier for them to do that? Right. So it's like, it's the problem. It's how do you make it easier for customers to come in? How do you make it easier for, I've had that similar conversation with my team is, if you're sending information to the client, like, they don't just want the data, they want to know, what do I do with this? Right? What does this mean? And so I think there's always that advice kind of boils down to, like, you can always kind of think another step or two out in whatever it is that you're doing, mm-hmm. and make life easier for that person. And then you'll have a better client relationship, a better personal relationship by developing a little empathy like that.
Yep. Oh, that's a great one. That's a great one. Yep.
Well, yeah. Well, how can people get in touch with you, Chris?
Well, bankmarketingshow.com. Well, I think a bit more elaborate answer on that for you and I is that, yes, you and I each run agencies and that are very complementary. Dan, it's so cool that we've done a good bit of work together. And obviously, we serve an awful lot of clients separately and all of that. So, we do want people to get in touch with us because one of the reasons that we started doing this podcast is because we both have a good bit of experience and a wealth of knowledge, if you will, about the industry and about marketing. So I know you and I, at the end of every episode, and I want people to hear that we actually really sincerely mean this, that if you just want to chat, if you just want to brainstorm, if you have a challenge or something like that, neither you nor I, we're the opposite end of the spectrum from hard sellers. So it's not about that at all. So yeah, reach out to us, bankmarketingshow.com. The contact email that's on there goes to both Dan and I. We're each individually on LinkedIn. Dan's a lot better about checking his LinkedIn messages than I am and all that kind of stuff. But reach out to us and we really do respond. And we really do like to communicate with folks. So I want to encourage everyone to connect with us that way. And if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to the show on whatever platform that you're listening to the podcast, or also check it out on YouTube. And we have video on there, but we also have some additional clips and things that are kind of the gold nuggets from some of our episodes. So check us out on our YouTube channel as well. Great ways to get in touch with us.
Yeah, and we're excited to, continue the conversation, start new conversations, going into our 4th year and our next batch of episodes. And, I always think about this as we're 50, 60 episodes in where, we were just sort of felt like we were screaming into the ether of, listen to this bank marketing advice. And it took a long time before we'd start hearing stuff back and, getting feedback. And that really helps me, kind of propels us to keep going. So if you've got things you'd like us to cover, stuff you want to talk about, we are here. We'd love to get connected in the community. I know we're both starting to plan our, 26 conference schedules, and it'd be great to see some of you out and about in the real world.
There you go. Awesome. Wow, man. 100 episodes in. It's an honor and a pleasure doing it with you, Dan. And as you kind of alluded to, we've got some really exciting experts and guests coming up early part of the year ahead of us. So looking forward to what's next as well.
Yeah, likewise.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dan. Have a great one.
Thanks, Chris. Let's see you for 101.
All right.
Thanks for joining us. To go deeper or get access to some of the valuable nuggets from today's show, go to bankmarketingshow.com. There you'll find episodes, links to resources, and much more. Be sure to subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. And join us next time.